So if you've ever shopped for insurance or read about it, some of you may already be aware of this. You probably heard the terms term and whole life, referring to the two different types of life insurance. So I'm going to explain that in a very oversimplified way. All life insurance comes down to one of two types. It's either the temporary kind or it's the permanent kind. So here's a little memory trick that I use and share with people to help you always remember the difference. Term will terminate. See, it's part of the word terminate, but that's not what it stands for. And whole life will last your whole life. So obviously, term is temporary, whole life is permanent. So the main differences between the two: term life is temporary. It's usually for a 10, 15, 20 year, even as much as 25 or 30 years. Not very many offer a term that goes beyond 30 years. It's designed to be temporary. It has a lower initial cost, but the price does go up. It'll either go along steady for the entire 10, 15, 20 years and then take a massive jump in price, or it'll go along and take smaller jumps in price, say every 5 years or so. There's different ways that they can do it. Term life insurance always cancels due to some age. Most common term policies that we see are age 75 or age 80, they go away and they are no more. So I'm going to explain why that actually does make sense and why it's a better fit for some people. The last thing about term, as long as you pay the premiums, only 3% of term policies in the U.S. ever pay out. When they pay out big because they're for 100,000, 250,000, $500,000. I'll explain that in just a minute. But most term policies don't actually pay out. That number, that 3%, will vary depending on the source. On the whole life side, it's designed to be permanent. It's for people who are looking for some final expenses or a burial, things of that nature, and smaller death benefits is most typically when people get a whole life. That's what they're looking for, so that their family doesn't have to come up with that $10,000 or $15,000 for a funeral. Some of the guarantees that you get with whole life: it never cancels due to age. You cannot outlive it, and the price is locked on day one. At the time that you bought it, if you bought it when you were 50 years old, that price is locked. It's always going to be the same price. It'll always be the same amount of insurance. And also, whole life builds cash value most of the time, which is something that you can borrow against, and I never recommend that people do that ever. But it provides you with some options if you need to drop the insurance at some point down the road. You don't forfeit all of that money that you've paid in. You can get some of that back, or you can even lock it into a certain amount of insurance and not have to pay for it any longer. And 100% of the time, if you're paying for, as long as you're paying the premiums, whole life will pay a death benefit to somebody. So why the difference? Why have two different types? Why have a temporary and a permanent type of insurance? Well, term is designed usually for younger folks that are looking for some type of an income replacement. If they die, say there's a husband and a wife and some kids maybe, if I die, I want to have $250,000 or $500,000 for my family to go on as an income replacement for that lost income. So the trade-off is you're getting a lower cost initially, and you're getting a high amount of insurance, but it's not going to be there forever. It's not designed to take you to the end of your life. So it does have its advantages, and for younger people, that's a very good option. Whole life, on the other hand, like I mentioned before, is usually for people who are looking to take care of a burial, final expenses, that sort of thing. Usually in the range of $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, maybe a little bit of cash to pay off a few debts, but they're not huge amounts of insurance. So especially when we talk about final expense, that's all people are looking for, take care of a funeral. So I hope this helps, guys. Again, it's a very simplified explanation, but hope that helps everybody understand a little better. Thank you.